Liverpool have dropped out of the race to sign Jude Bellingham owing to a lack of funds, and barring a miraculous end to the season, look set to miss out on Champions League qualification for the first time since 2017. Now, these are two things that shouldn't be the end of the world, but they have led to accusations from fans of other clubs that they might be completely f***ed this summer. But are they? So, first of all, what are their problems? Well, first and foremost, the big thing they have to address this summer is their squad. If we take a quick look here at all of Liverpool's senior players, you can see that they're quite well balanced. It's certainly got loads of quality, but when we start to organise it by age, you can see the problems emerging. Liverpool have a substantial number of senior footballers who are either aging into or out of their peak years as a player. Now, before we continue here, I just want to say that as somebody in their mid-30s, I do feel duty-bound to say this is a slightly flawed way of measuring stuff. Some players obviously go on to play well into their late 30s, some players get bad injuries in their 20s and start to decline much earlier, but when you're planning on building a squad, this is a useful thing to look at. If we factor in the number of minutes played, Liverpool are very dependent on a number of senior players who are at a stage in their career now where those minutes should be managed. Again, there are obviously exceptions to this, but once you get into your 30s as a professional footballer, you shouldn't be playing every single week, especially not if you're part of a club that is playing 2, sometimes 3 times a week. To get the best out of them, you need to start using them a bit more sparingly. So if we just highlight the players who are 28 or under, you can see that Liverpool currently aren't really built around them as a squad, and the simple reason for that is because they're not as good as the older players. Now, add to this the fact they've got 6 of these players who are set to leave for nothing in the summer. Roberto Firmino, James Milner, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita and Adrian all have contracts that are expiring at the end of the season, and Arthur, who's admittedly only managed 13 minutes in his time at the club, will be returning to Juventus off his loan. And you start to see that this is not only an aging squad, but now quite a thin one as well. So you want to add quality and you want to add depth. Those seem fairly normal things, but the thing about both of them is they cost you, at this level, an awful lot of money. And Liverpool, you see, are not a team who will just recklessly spend an awful lot of money. Yes, they've splashed the cash on a number of players, all of whom have done very well for them, but they do tend to stay within their means, and the problem they're about to have is that those means are about to shrink dramatically. Now, Champions League money is worth different things to different teams, and if that surprised you, then, well, yes, it also surprised me, but the prize money's divvied out differently depending on your coefficient, and of course, how far you go in the competition is also a massive factor. But according to UEFA's annual financial report, Liverpool have banked an additional £70 million in prize money alone every single season Jurgen Klopp's had them in the Champions League. Now, you add to that their slice of the TV money, which is also massive, and the fact that a stadium like Liverpool's can generate anywhere between £1.5 and £3 million on a match day when it's a big European sellout, and that's an enormous chunk of their revenue that's soon to go missing. We're getting slightly into guesswork territory here, but Liverpool broke records with their annual turnover last season at just shy of 600 million, and a rough estimate would say about 20% of that came from their involvement in UEFA competitions. Basically, to boil it down, qualifying for the Champions League is probably worth about £100 million all in to Liverpool, and while yes, being in the Europa League will claw some of that back, it won't claw anywhere near that much back. One other thing it has to be said they're quite good at is recouping money from player sales. This season, they spent about $120 million on the arrivals of Darwin Núñez, Cody Gakpo and Fabio Carvalho, but managed to recoup over half of that back with the sales of Sadio Mane, Nico Williams and Takumi Minamino. If we just have a quick look at the squad again, you can see that unless they were willing to part with a player who currently gets a lot of minutes and is thus very important how they play, there isn't really a standout candidate that screams sell-on value. Players like Henderson, Thiago and Matip are arguably too old to command any sort of serious transfer fee. Players like Elliott, Jones and Bajcetic are all academy graduates and thus vital for their European squad registration. And also, it's just obviously important to have academy graduates in your squad. That leaves you with players like Jota and Diaz, who would undoubtedly have played a lot more minutes if they'd been available for them. And realistically, would you replace them with better players for the money you'd get? I don't think so. Which is why these 5 players leaving represents a bit of a problem, because Firmino, Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita and Adrian, none of them would command a big fee on the way out, but collectively, if you got a little bit for all of them, that probably buys you 1 or 2 decent players. So just to get back to the original question, are Liverpool absolutely this summer? And yes and no. They're certainly not going to be able to do what they would have wanted to do this summer, which is go out and get one blue chip player to strengthen the midfield and then get a couple of quality additions to sort of pad out the first team squad. That's not going to happen. But what they have got going for them is that historically, Liverpool are very good shoppers. Like Mo Salah and Andy Robertson were not considered blue chip transfers when they came in. And even Virgil van Dijk, people thought they paid massively over the odds for them, and then in 12 months' time, he looked worth double that. So if you haven't got 150 million for Jude Bellingham, 60 or 70 on Alexis McAllister is actually pretty good. They're also about to finish expanding a part of the stadium, which means while they're going to lose the Champions League money, it will help them wring out a little bit extra from the matches they do have. And most importantly, they still have the manager. If the fans had turned on Jurgen Klopp this season, this could have been like Chelsea levels of catastrophe for Liverpool, but they stuck by him, and now coming towards the end of the season, what looked like a really bad campaign might still a chance, be okay. And what it means for next season is there is no horrible, poisonous atmosphere at Anfield. They're not a few bad results in September away from having to sack the manager and tear the whole thing up and just start from scratch. They can spend the summer finding the right players and finding the right system, and if it's a slow start, it's a slow start. They'll have time. So yes, bottom line, no, I don't think Liverpool are completely here. I just think they've got an incredibly difficult summer ahead of them, and if they mess it up, then they might be But hope springs eternal, so if you're a Liverpool fan, please let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments below. And if you're not a Liverpool fan, please let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments below. And while you're here, of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The latest edition of the world's greatest football magazine, 442, is available now from all good retailers. And we even have a very special offer for new subscribers. You get 3 issues for £5 and a little present for subscribing. And I think this month, it's a football shirt mystery box, so it's actually something you'd want. It isn't just tat. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. I've, of course, been Adam Cleary. This is FourFourTwo, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.